Welcome to Husky Ballpark. This is the Pac-12 opener, and it's the final year of Pac-12 baseball, at least as we know it. Certainly the University of Washington's last year in Pac-12 baseball, and today Washington welcomes one of the conference's best over the years, the Stanford Cardinal. I'm A.J. Cannell. Glad to have you with us here on overall a comfortable evening, at least so far, in Seattle, with great view of Lake Washington in the background. And the Stanford Cardinal coming in. They started the year 1-5, but since then 5-1, rounding into form just in time for the start of conference play. And the Cardinal have found a way to do that in spades the last few years. The back-to-back defending Pac-12 regular season champs and 3 straight College World Series appearances for the Cardinal. For Washington, they're 3-5-1. Opening their final Pac-12 season this weekend, but they've held a lead in 8 different games of the 9 they have played. There you see the starting pitcher for today's game, Jared Engman. Engman has been doing this for a long time on Montlake. This year, he's making his 4th appearance and 3rd start. The senior is 0-2 with a 4.40 ERA, 14 1/3 innings pitched with 11 hits, 8 runs, 7 earned, 7 walks, 9 strikeouts. Batters are just hitting .212 against Engman, but the deal for him historically has always been, can he command his stuff? When he's effectively wild, he's really good. When he's just wild, not as good. So Engman taking an early look, last marching orders towards Jason Kelly and his dugout. And stepping in for the Cardinal to open up Pac-12 play is Court McDonald, the left fielder who has been on a tear to start his sophomore season. First meaningful opportunity to play for Stanford. He was a bit part last year on their conference champion team. And this year McDonald is hitting .333 to start the season. Engman is quickly out in front, 0-2. Ground ball to first, and easy does it for Jeter Ibarra. 3 pitches, 1 down. Coming up next for Stanford is Malcolm Moore, the catcher, who's hitting just .205 to start the season, but of course expect a ton more out of him. He's going to be followed by Jimmy Nadai, the first baseman, Brady Reynolds in right, the cleanup hitter for Stanford. Trevor Haskins is the shortstop batting 5th. Luke Lavin, the DH, will be next up. And Timo Becerra at 3rd. Ethan Holt batting 8th in center field, and Owen Cobb, second baseman, rounds out the order. So Engman made really easy work of McDonald, but quickly gets behind Malcolm Moore. 3 balls and no strikes. Fires one in there to Moore, who was a freshman All-American last year. And with Stanford losing so much to the draft, going to be relied upon a lot this year as their starting catcher. The count has run full on Moore, and that is dribbled to keep it full. So pitch number 7 of the at-bat coming to Moore, the Sacramento native, who entered the year on the Golden Spikes watch list. Does have 3 home runs, but off to a slow batting average start this season. hit harder down the first base line. And now this at bat will reach 8 pitches. Engman, the redshirt senior, is getting his money's worth from Malcolm Moore. I mean, anytime you think about this early in a 3-game series, and you can potentially stack a double-digit pitch at bat on the starter in the first inning. The 9th pitch into the played back Iva Arquette. Now, Iva Arquette, pardon me, throws on to first for what became a routine play. Wouldn't quite call it the full shift there, but the defense was certainly shifted over a bit, and Iva Arquette was deep into right field there defensively. So Moore goes down 4-3, and that took a while, but Engman gets the first 2 batters. And Jimmy Nadeye stares at a strike. So last season was a bit of a dip for Engman, finished with a 5.91 ERA. After an ERA hovering around 4 in his first year with the program. Coming over from Tacoma Community College for his first 2 years, now his 3rd year with UW. He's been very consistent in terms of availability, reaching 15 starts in consecutive seasons. You could just see physically imposing, strong guy out there. That's ripped towards short, so a couple of hard hit balls, but Clayton squeezes that one, and it is a 1-2-3 inning for Jared Engman. Nadeye got a lot of that one, but right at the shortstop, Clayton. And we will head to the bottom of the first, coming your way next. All right, welcome back for the bottom of the first inning. First chance to hit for the Washington Huskies, which will come up with, get their lineup momentarily against Matt Scott, the sophomore. Takes the mound here for Stanford. Scott off to a 1-2 start with a 4.70 ERA. He's had a decision in each of his 3 appearances and starts this year. 15 1/3 for him. 9 hits, 9 runs, 8 earned, 8 walks, 28 strikeouts. Batters just 167. So the ERA lagging behind all the other numbers in a small sample size here. And Scott will face Cam Clayton, the shortstop, who is 263 to begin the year with 2 home runs. After Clayton, it'll be Iva Arquette at second base, Jeter Ibarra, the first baseman, batting third, A.J. Guerrero in left field at cleanup, Karsten Oland in right field batting 5th, and it's Michael Brown, the DH, Sam DiCarlo, the third baseman, Colin Blanchard batting 8th at catcher, and Blake Wilson in center field batting 9th. Count is 1 ball and 2 strikes to Clayton. Clayton started every game last year at shortstop, hit .325 and earned all Pac-12 honors. Now in his junior year. Pitch is low and away, so now it's a full count. Here it comes from Scott. Clayton reaches out and pulls that into left field for a base hit. Matt Scott's secondary offering is a slider, so you have to look out for that. Yeah, I think may have been what Clayton got a hold of there as he reached out and dragged that one to left. Scott goes fastball 94 to 97, then a slider and also a splitter available to him, but you're going to see mostly fastball slider, I was told from Scott. Now Iva Arquette hits the zone for strike one to Arquette, 268 with 1 home run, 7 driven in. Clayton has got a little speed and is 2 for 2 this year stealing bases. Take a look at his moderate leadoff first here. Being held on by Nat-Eye. Arquette off the end of the bat. That's going to work out for him. Into right center field. Really almost dead away right field despite Ethan Holt coming all the way over to get it. The center fielder for Stanford taking initiative. But 2 batters and 2 singles for Washington. You see how far over Holt was playing. They were expecting Arquette to go that way, and he did. Jeter Ibarra will step in against Scott. Big cut there to start out the at-bat. Well, you go back to last year for Washington, which overachieved in year 1 for Jason Kelly. When you think about the at-bats they were able to put together, they're hoping to make that translate into year 2 under Coach Kelly. There were some times toward the end of the season that the lack of pitching depth came back to get the Huskies last year. That's popped way up. This could be difficult to spot. At first, center fielder didn't see it. But then eventually Holt either was deking the runners or located it. This is that time of night, almost post-dusk, where the ball can really blend into the night sky. And when it got hit, Ibarra's pop-up had Holt just holding his palms up there. But occasionally you could try and sell the runners on that as well. Cleanup batter A.J. Guerrero. He's off to a slow start this year, just 2-11. Hasn't gone yard yet, just 3 driven in 38 at-bats, just has 8 hits. That was relatively close to hitting him. He got out of the way of that fastball from Scott on the first pitch. Well, Guerrero, he's had a track record of producing, so there's no doubt Jason Kelly's going to keep on trotting him out in the heart of the lineup. Last year was all Pac-12 honorable mention and led the team with a .345 average, 20 extra base hits, including 8 home runs. And the year before that, his freshman season, hit .300 with a team-high .871 OPS as a full-time starter. And he's been gifted 3 straight off the plate, and now will have a hitter's count 3-1. with 2 on base and 1 out in the first. Ground ball back up the middle. Tailor-made double play ball. Haskins, Cobb, Nadai. It's been Washington this year that's turned a lot of double plays, but they get a taste of their own medicine. Guerrero hits into a 6-4-3 DBP, and that'll do it for the first. Okay, welcome back. Take a look at the crowd here in the Pac-12 opener in 2024 at Husky Ballpark. And Jared Engman will retake the hill here, top half of the second. That is drilled, but very foul by Brady Reynolds. It was a routine top of the first for Engman. Lengthy at bat with Malcolm Moore, the catcher, but he eventually hit one into the shift and was retired 4-3. And it became a 1-2-3 inning shortly thereafter. Washington, which has had issues leaving runners on base this year, left 1 on in the first, but had 2 on before Guerrero grounded into an inning double play. Brady Reynolds, freshman, off to a nice start, 333. Straightaway center field, but shallow, and a late jump from Blake Wilson. I don't know that he gets there anyway, but it is a single for Reynolds. It was hit right at Wilson, and he was fooled. Trevor Haskins showing bunt. And he went. According to home plate umpire Joe Burleson, who was joined by Bradley Hungerford at third, Sean Rakos at second, and Mike Fichter at first. Haskins, the junior from San Jose. And they'll check on Reynolds. Another guy that Haskins, the hitter, minor role the last couple of years. Got to enjoy a couple of Pac-12 titles, but played in just 22 total games in the last 2 seasons. For context, a team will play, depending on how far they go, which Stanford tends to go pretty far, 3 straight College World Series appearances. You'll see something maybe in the 50s or low 60s for a team game played for the season. So he wasn't in there much. He drives this one to right center. Coming over is Oland, the right fielder, for the catch. And Haskins, the shortstop. You're going to see his 195 batting average drop a little further. Now the DH, Luke Lavin. He's only had 17 at-bats this year. He's had 3 hits. That last pitch was a 92-mile-an-hour fastball from Engman. Freshman, he also shows bunt, the second straight hitter to show bunt, clearly there with 1 down. Lavin bunting for a hit. But it goes foul, and he gets himself an 0-2 hole. 2023 Santa Margarita Catholic High School grad who led his team to a CIF regional state title. Fouls it straight back. Stanford Cardinal are the only team in the NCAA that has been to 3 straight College World Series appearances. Certainly they had to reload their roster this year in their final Pac-12 season. So hard to say whether this is the year they get over the proverbial hump, but that being said, the issue was once they got there to the College World Series, they were only 1-6 in the last 3 years in CWS games. That, of course, is a first-class problem to have. Oh, no, we don't win enough once we're there. I think they're pretty proud of their accomplishments over the last few years, being the only team to make it all 3 years. Ground ball to second, Arquette, Clayton, Ibarra. And so Lavin grounds into a 4-6-3 double play. And each team has turned one to end the last couple of half innings. Washington, one of the top teams, actually, they are the top team in the country in double plays turned per game. And they're right on pace to continue that trend here in this one. So Washington put something together in their first chance up, but ended the inning with a double play ground out. But Huskies came back, turned one of their own, and now right back up at bat again. As Carson Olin, the right fielder, will kick it off here. He's making his 10th appearance, his 8th start. He's played in every game, but he has started all but 2 of them this year for the Huskies. And hitting .346. Not a ton of power yet from the freshman, but starting the year strong, getting on base. And a 3-pitch strikeout for Matt Scott. It's Scott's first strikeout. In fact, the first K for either side in this one. Here comes Michael Brown, who's been a platoon-type player the last few years. Who knows? I mean, it's I think probably tough for him with his career overlapping so much with a guy like Will Simpson. Eating up so many of those starts at first base and having the career he did. Maybe Brown would have ended up playing more, but now in his senior year, Brown has gotten the majority of the reps as a starter, playing in the DH role, making his 7th start, 9th appearance, and reaches out at that one to even the count 1-1 on the foul ball. Brown actually had his fewest appearances last year, just 18 games and only 8 starts last year for Brown. He compared that to his freshman year, he played 31. Actually ranked 2nd on the team with 4 home runs that year. And clearly he has the ability to lift a baseball very high and very far, but it's the consistency from Brown. 2-1. A little off balance there, and 2-strike count. His father goes by the same name, had a 10-year career playing for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Two-two to Michael Brown. He got him. 2 straight strikeouts to start the second for Scott. And it will be Sam DiCarlo to try and launch a 2-out rally for the Huskies. The Dogs coming off a series loss against Santa Clara, their first home non-conference series defeat since 2021 against Loyola Marymount. They did win the final game, salvaged game 3 of that series with a 5-3 victory. And we are looking from Matt Scott for, it wouldn't be an immaculate inning, but it wouldn't be far off either. Trying to strike out the side. Three-pitch strikeout. KKK in the second for Matt Scott. He goes swinging, swinging, swinging. Impressive in the second for Matt Scott. It's a calm, quiet night here in Seattle. And so far, Jared Engman has faced the minimum, getting ready to face 7, 8, 9 in top half of the third. One pitch, Timo Becerra grounds to the second baseman there, Arquette, who was played over, comes across the other side of the bag and retires Timo Becerra. You had a 1-2-3 first from Engman, and then a double play ground out in the second to close it out. So he's faced the minimum. And now the eighth hitter, Ethan Holt, quickly looks at a strike. Yeah, Engman's scary. He's one of those guys that at times has struggled with his command. But if he starts to pick up confidence and feel like he can just attack the zone, his natural stuff can play up. And maybe that's what we're starting to see. He's quickly ahead of Holt, 0-2. Engman features a fastball in the low 90s. And that's pulled just foul on a 93-mile-an-hour fastball, which may be about the top of his range. Slider in the low 80s and a changeup as well, hovering around 80. Off the end of the bat, this is going to be difficult. Gets through Clayton, and the dive by DiCarlo perhaps didn't help either. At the end of the day, no one is making a play there. Just perfect placement for Holt. DiCarlo's got to try and cut that one off, but there was really nothing either guy could do. Even if that's played cleanly by Clayton, he has no chance. So an infield single. And now Owen Cobb, the number 9 hitter and second baseman. Washington would love to go back-to-back double play groundouts to close an inning. They lead the country this year, as I said. I'll give you the exact number. 1.56 double plays turned per game is the most in the NCAA on a per-game basis entering the weekend. They will not turn 2 here, but they'll take a fly ball out to Wilson. Got to remember, too, that of the 2 batters to reach base against Engman, Brady Reynolds, the cleanup hitter, hit a ball that perhaps had a chance to be caught, but Wilson misread a little bit off the bat. And then the second one was that infield single. So Stanford doesn't really have much hard contact off of Engman. Maybe 2 of their harder hit balls came on outs in the first inning. But still, Engman has kept him at bay. Now has Ethan Holt on first. Top of the order for Court McDonald, who grounded out to first quickly to start off the game. Well, Pac-12 play, there are challengeable calls. The challenge rules in year 2 of that era are in effect in this conference, so keep an eye out for that. And, of course, the pitch clock rules as well. An effect runner goes, double pump there by the catcher Colin Blanchard, and not much of a chance there as Ethan Holt steals second. So now runner in scoring position. And that's a ball that's hit into right field, and just like that, McDonald singles, Holt stole second, and now scores easily. On a Court McDonald RBI single to right, his 8th run batted in this year. Holt scores his 5th run of the season. Stanford out in front. And a chance for their sophomore catching phenom Malcolm Moore to do even more damage. Liner, but right to Arquette. Had to play over a couple of steps, but had Malcolm Moore defended well with their defensive alignment. So Washington lets one in. Court McDonald RBI single. 1-0 Stanford, middle half of the third. All of a sudden, Stanford's got the momentum. Matt Scott struck out the side, all swinging in the second. Stanford scratches and run across. The stolen base really helping there from Ethan Holt, who then came around to score promptly on a single from Court McDonald. This is the first batter of the inning here. I know we're having a couple of issues getting the score bug updated. We're all trying our best there on that, but we know it's the first batter of the inning, so clearly nobody on. But 0-2 count to Blanchard. 8-9-1 due up in the inning. And Scott with the 0-2. Yeah, that's in there. 4th straight strikeout. Yeah, the first 3 swinging. He'll add that one in looking, and this is more the MO this year for Scott. He's now racked up 32 strikeouts on the season compared to just 8 walks. A 4-to-1 ratio there, easy math there. Number 9 man, Blake Wilson. Wilson has struck out 9 times in 37 at-bats, so he's a candidate, hitting .216. He has gotten every start this year as just a freshman. Wilson hails from Trabuco Canyon, California. And another Santa Margarita Catholic guy. He was drafted out of high school in the 20th round. Wilson was the batter by the Kansas City Royals. Elected to go to school. 1-2. He thought about it and did not go, according to Mike Victor, the first base umpire. Scott in search of his 5th straight strikeout. fifth straight strikeout is there. Scott has a chance to strike out the side in 2 straight frames. Man. He does have to face top of the order now. Clayton had a single off of him. They went back-to-back singles off of Scott to start the game, with Clayton and Iva Arquette haven't had a hit since. That was a frame attempt there from Malcolm Moore, but just outside. And no runners on right now. And the count 2-0. Scott taking an extra half beat. Pitch clock down to 2 as he got into his windup. Clayton hits one sharply, but right at the left fielder, McDonald. That does snap the strikeout streak. It'll have to end at 5 straight for Scott, but he has cruised through the last couple of innings for Stanford. All right, we go to the 4th at Husky Ballpark. AJ Cannell with you on the Pac-12 and the Washington stream. And it's going to be Jimmy Nadai coming in. Swung on and missed, and Engman takes care of the first baseman quickly. It's pretty difficult to do for a guy in Jimmy Nadai who's hitting .432. Brady Reynolds snaps one over to second. And he singled his first time up, but now he's retired. A couple of quick outs there for Jared Engman. Time is called. Trevor Haskins is going to go have a conversation. Maybe just trying to slow things down. David Esker, after Engman got 2 outs very, very quickly. Esker in his 7th year as head coach. With a winning percentage north of 700. Currently the highest winning percentage of any coach in Stanford baseball history. So you figured something was up. He has the conversation. Haskins shows bunt, but pulls it back, and ball one. Cuts through that one. I really think probably the purpose of that conversation was mostly just to change the pace a little bit on Engman here in the middle of the order, facing 3-4-5 in the inning, and is mowing him down right now. 2-strike count. Haskins. Colin Blanchard liked the pitch from Engman there. Quickly with the 2-2. That's upstairs. Engman hits Haskins. It was an even count, a chance for Engman to pick up his second 1-2-3 inning, but then loses the command a little bit. And that's not a fun spot to take one. Luke Lavin trying to make up for it. He grounded into a double play to end the second. I have a chance now with 2 outs in the fourth. Yeah, pretty common occurrence just for Stanford maybe taking that first pitch all the way. Just at least showing bunt, putting the thought in the mind of the defense, even with 2 outs. A check on first. Just trying to kind of wait Engman out, build the pitch count up. Understand that he can really blow players away with a fastball that has a lot of movement, and the issue usually is more control-based, so a patient approach from Stanford. One and two is the count here against Lavin. Lavin from Laguna Beach, California. Engman paying diligent attention to Haskins, who has not attempted a steal this year. He goes here. That's his first attempt of the season. Close play. Good pick by Clayton. He applies the tag just behind the runner. So, second straight inning in which Stanford executes a steal of second. Yeah, the tag was just late there. The throw, maybe a bit in front of the bag. And now the count has run full. Second straight batter that Engman could be on the verge of losing. Here Engman comes. He gets Lavin to chase. Blanchard throws him out at first. And Engman escapes a similar fate as the third when that stolen base came around to score. It'll stay a one-run game. Back as we zoom out on Husky Ballpark with with some late rush hour traffic in the background. Matt Scott has thrown 40 pitches and 26 strikes coming into this inning. He has faced 10 batters through the first 3 innings. So he has done well for himself, and he has been absolutely flawless after the first 2 got on with singles, including this guy, Iva Arquette. He has sent away the next 9, or the next 8, one of which was a double play. So 8 straight retired, including a string of 5 straight strikeouts at one point for Scott. Again, now for the season, 33 strikeouts, 8 walks, and he's only hit 1. Foul tipped into the mitt of Moore, and Matt Scott has his 6th of the day. 5 of those 6, he has elicited a swing and miss. Scott last year was on the perfect game freshman All-American 2nd team. This year coming in, made the overall Baseball America All-America preseason 3rd team and was preseason All-Conference in the Pac-12. Last year he averaged over 8 strikeouts a game, limited batters to just 227. His ERA was up around 5.5 though. It's kind of been the deal with him this year. Like the batting average against strikeout numbers were really good. ERA not great coming in, but the way he's thrown it, you feel like that'll just get better and better as Ibarra puts a charge into this one. He sends Ethan Hott back deep toward the track, and Ethan Hott makes the catch. Maybe later in the year when the ball's carrying a little bit better. Wind is pretty still today, but a little more bang for your buck on those in May or at least April. Now A.J. Guerrero had a double play ground out to end the first. Quickly pops it up foul. So more on Scott. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year in 2022 in Connecticut. He's from Reading, Connecticut. Went to Joel Barlow High School and led them to a Class M state title. How does Connecticut need a Class M? It's like a microscopic state compared to much of the country. But for whatever reason, they have one, and I don't know if there was a better player coming out of Class M. I don't think there was when he won Gatorade State Player of the Year, Matt Scott, in 2022. He had an 0.38 ERA with 156 strikeouts as a senior. So basically, batters had no success his senior year of high school. And relatively little success in terms of putting the ball in play at this level. This is the heart of the Husky order, and in danger of another 1-2-3 inning, but A.J. Guerrero shows some selectiveness. Ten straight sent down by Scott, including a double play. Way up into the air. They were playing Guerrero the other way. So a long run for McDonald and the shortstop. And McDonald dropped the ball down the line. That was all caused by the defensive alignment. You had Haskins running over there from his spot. He was nearly the closest to the ball because of how far away McDonald was played over toward left center field. And you see there's just nobody there. McDonald eventually got there, but you have to think because of the chaos in the first place, he dropped it. It's the first batter to reach since Arquette hit a second straight single for the Huskies to start the game in the first inning. That is ruled an error on the left fielder, McDonald. Tough error. It's a tough error. It's not that it's the wrong call there, but there could be some slower-footed players that struggle to get to that ball. He got there with time, but just couldn't squeeze it because of the defensive alignment. Sure, he'd love to have it back, but still some external factors there. Carson Oland, he began the string of the 5 straight strikeouts, and now Oland is going to try to avoid starting a new streak here. 0-2 coming from Scott. Yeah, a new streak started, potentially. All right, now it's a streak of 1. But the 7th strikeout for Scott. And Washington leaves its second runner on base after the error, but a routine 4th overall for Scott. 1-0 Cardinal. It'll be 7-8-9 due up in the inning for Stanford in a game that could easily be scoreless right now. The only blemish on Engman came in the 3rd when you had the stolen base by Ethan Hott, the center fielder. And then he got eventually driven in as a leaping play by DiCarlo on the chopper. Throws on a hop. Great pick by Ibarra. So Timo Becerra grounds out on a nice play on both ends there. Tough short hop for Ibarra. Great play in the first place to keep it on the infield by DiCarlo. But, I mean, squaring a bunt here is Ethan Hott. Yeah, that stolen base might have been the key play of the game because Engman has kind of had his way with most of the Stanford hitters, but Hott steal put a runner in scoring position as he drives this one deep to left field, hits the bottom of the wall. It'll be scooped up out there by Guerrero, and so 2 of the bigger moments in the game now, courtesy of Ethan Hott. He is 2 for 2. He had an infield single to get on base in the 3rd, and another ball that maybe in different time of year would have had a chance to get out. You know, later in the season, the ball really carries out of this ballpark as well. That might have been a no-doubter in a month from now. Owen Cobb flied out to center in the 3rd. He is fooled there by the breaking ball. The Engman slider. And a second hit batter. That is not one you want if you're Engman. He hit Haskins earlier, but in this case you have the number 9 man up and the top of the order coming. They're going to take a look at Cobb. And hopefully he is all right as well, but he seems to think he's fine, and tells the training staff and the coaching staff to head back to the dugout. And this will be the first mound visit of the day for Jason Kelly, the Washington head coach, who also serves as the pitching coach and was the pitching coach here at the University of Washington for the better part of the 2010s. Before, I think the way he describes it, going on almost kind of a fact-finding mission and just learning a lot about the game from other sources, other coaches over the next few seasons. Spent the 2022 season as the pitching coach at LSU, was also at Arizona State, and after spending 2013 through 2019 with the Huskies as their pitching coach, gets to come back and feels like he's ready to be their head coach now in his second year. And they were great last year. He really brought a spark as Washington. That's slowly hit, so it's Arquette. Clayton not quite hit sharply enough for the Huskies to turn two on the ground ball by McDonald. They do get the second out of the inning and a chance for Angman to get out of things. So Owen Cobb is the guy forced out at second. Ethan Hott is now standing at third with McDonald on first, and Malcolm Moore at the dish. Could the Golden Spikes Award watch list player break this open a little bit for Stanford, extend the lead? A Sacramento native, two-time Gatorade State Player of the Year in California. Number one rated prospect coming out of high school by Perfect Game, and he didn't, number one prospect in California, didn't disappoint last year. Now in his sophomore season. But Angman's got a chance here, 0-2 count. That was tough, too, because it's 0-2. You're tempted against such a great player to be careful with it. But we've seen Angman a couple of times lose control after a favorable count. I think he still is at his best even here when he's in attack mode and not overly concerned about a great hitter. That's what he does, and he elicits a pop fly to left field. Guerrero under it. So Angman gets out of it. Strands two, and it remains a 1-0 ball game. Welcome back. We are halfway through, in theory, in Husky Ballpark. Michael Brown's going to come up to the plate. He struck out his first time up. And Washington's going to try and turn things around here. They've been neutralized by Matt Scott ever since the first. Only base runner since the first was Guerrero reaching on an error in the fourth. This is the 95th ever meeting. According to the Washington Athletic Department, there's a little discrepancy, which you will see sometimes, between the two history books when you have such a long-ranging history. We're here in Seattle, so we're going to go with the Washington version of it, and the 95th all-time meeting, and a 64-30 record for Stanford, including a plus 500 record here in Seattle, where they're 25-20. Stanford 7-3 in the last 10 games between these two teams. There is a however, though. It's a significant however. Brown, good eye there. Washington has managed to scratch out 4 straight series here at home against Stanford. They have taken 2 out of 3 in every single case, and that's Impressive considering where Stanford has been the last several years. Last time here was back in 2022. Washington took games 1 and game 3 in that one. They were each one-run victories. Stanford last year on the farm took 2 of 3 in the lone series meeting last season. Michael Brown shows some patience, and that's the first free pass by Matt Scott. Last year's series at Klein Field at Sunken Diamond came down to a 16-inning Game 3. Tommy Troy delivered with a 2-run walk-off home run against Riley McAdams to take the rubber match against Washington last year. Washington actually had a +5 run differential in the series despite losing the series because they won Game 2 9-0. And the other 2 games were 2-run Stanford wins. So, overall, the Huskies have played the Cardinal, despite the Cardinals' status as, a College World Series participant in the last 3 years. Huskies have played Stanford really competitively, as we will see. Thomas Eager, for the first time, pitching coach for Stanford. He makes all mound visits and pitching changes for head coach David Esker. I think just kind of a signifier of how rare any lapse like this is for Scott in command. I mean, you're talking about a 1-0 count with 1 runner on base. And that was enough for Eager to say, this is not normal for Scott. Well, the rules that you're assuming pretty familiar with at this point. Pitch clock, 20 seconds with nobody on. I flipped it. 20 seconds with a runner on. 15 seconds with no one on. As Scott hits the top of the zone against Sam DiCarlo, who struck out in the second. Batter has to be ready at 8 seconds. And the pitcher is allowed 2 disengagements from the mound of any kind, including pickoffs, during the course of an at-bat. You can go for a third one, but I guess you better get the guy in that case. Because otherwise, he will advance. One and 2, the count to DiCarlo. Nobody out here in the bottom of the 5th. Foul tip. It is held on to by Malcolm Moore. And the strikeout party continues for Scott. That is his 8th. He showed off the swing and miss stuff as you see a look at the pitch clock there. And 7 of those 8 strikeouts have been forward-facing Ks, swinging. Now Colin Blanchard crouches into his stance. The catcher, he struck out looking. He was the lone exception. Now the highlight of the night for Scott, he struck out the side in the second and then struck out the first 2 of the third, so had 5 straight. A leadoff runner, a leadoff batter in Brown reaching, not really a stolen base threat. Here it is to Blanchard. Got a piece of that one. And both pitchers have really been good tonight. This is almost exactly how you draw it up in terms of what you're looking for from Jared Engman and Matt Scott. And Scott's definitely going to be a guy who MLB scouts are intrigued by, a fastball that can hit the upper 90s. And the ability to strike out players at a high clip. Even count on the number 8 man, Blanchard. And that is the 9th strikeout for Scott. Gotten Blanchard twice. Leadoff walk of Brown. He's been stuck on first. First pitch swinging. Wilson, fly ball, shallow center. Ethan Hott gloves it. Cruise control right now for Scott. Huskies leave their 3rd runner of the night on base on the free pass, and Scott got the next 3 in order, 2 of them by way of the K. It's 1-0 after 5. Well, 66 pitches, 48 strikes for Jared Engman. The numbers so far. Through his first 5 innings, he's allowed 4 hits and 1 earned run. 2 strikeouts. He's hit 2, hasn't walked anyone. Only 1 extra base hit so far, and he's controlled the zone. He's gotten his season-long ERA underneath 4. He's going to face 3-4-5. This is a danger zone, you would say. 3rd time through the order. A little bit later on in his outing, though, he's really conserved the pitch count well. And that's just off the plate, according to Joe Burleson behind the plate. And Engman's got to face here the middle of the order. Jimmy Nadai, Brady Reynolds, Trevor Haskins, 3-4-5. And just like that, there is Nadai going down the line and left. Guerrero racing over, wide turn from first. And Guerrero does well to hold Nadai to a single. First hit of the day for Nadai, who'd been 0 for 2 with a strikeout. He had a hard line drive out to the shortstop to close the first. This time was able to lift it a bit more and drive it down the line. And work on his .432 batting average. Now it's Brady Reynolds. Head coach Jason Kelly calls the pitches for the Huskies. Engman takes a look at first. Reynolds, a graduate of Liberty High School in Bakersfield, California. He competed for the U.S. national team, 15 and under team, at the WBC training camp in 2019. Yeah, that's up and away a little bit there, 3-0. Engman on the verge of getting himself in some serious trouble against the middle of the order. Four pitch. Free pass there. Second walk allowed by Engman tonight, in addition to the 2 batters that he hit. Pardon me, as I said before, the first walk of the night, but again, the 2 free passes by way of a hit batter. And now Jason Kelly's coming back out here. It's going to be Trevor Haskins coming up, who was hit earlier. His other plate appearance, he had a fly out to right field. Yeah, but this is where, as well as the night has gone for Jared Engman, things can turn against you in a hurry against this potent Stanford lineup. Everyone is pretty well aware that you get to the third time through the order, the numbers start to really tilt toward the batters, but Engman only 66 pitches deep into his outing coming into the inning. And then you have a full weekend-long series, and you're one of your top starters on the mound here in Game 1. You got to try and push him through this a little bit here in the sixth and see how far he can take you. Trevor Haskins showing bunt all the way, pops it up. Man, Stanford has shown bunt a lot tonight, and they have gotten nothing out of it whatsoever. At times, they've just been taking pitches that way, but they've had a few attempts, and they've come in some high-leverage spots and not gone well. Here's another attempt. This one he gets down. Challenging play. Blanchard throws him out by half a step. So ultimately, Haskins, given two chances to get a bunt down, does the job and moves two runners up a base. It is set up for Luke Lavin, who's had a tough night. 4-6-3 double play, ground out to end the second. Then he struck out to end the fourth. So we had a runner on in both situations, including a runner in scoring position in the fourth, and came up empty. Lavin this year only hitting 176 coming in, but limited appearances. And of course, Lavin, just a freshman, has catcher and first base positional ability, playing DH tonight. Infield is all pulled in. All four are in on the quote-unquote grass here on the turf surface. Now a two-strike count. Man, Engman would love the strikeout here. Get himself an opportunity with two down and the infield pushed back. He has two strikeouts tonight. Here's the pitch, fouled off. This is a huge moment. I mean, you have Stanford with an ace caliber pitcher on the mound really dealing, and kind of no end in sight for the Washington batters trying to deal with Scott. And this is driven down the right field line. Here comes Olin toward the corner. He dropped the ball. No matter what, one was going to score, but instead there will be two coming in. Reynolds behind Nati, and it is 3-0. Another difficult play, but Olin was there. Couldn't squeeze it, and that cost the Huskies a run. It was going to be a sacrifice fly. Instead, Lavin reaches second. They're going to rule an error on the play. So it should be one unearned run there, because the first was going to score anyway. And now Jason Kelly is going to lift Jared Engman from this game. Unfortunate for him. Should be a 2-0 game right now, and even that maybe not representative of how well he has performed today. You see Engman not thrilled with how things turned out but it is 3-0. We will introduce the new pitcher coming back on the other end here. Here in the 6th inning, we'll step aside for a moment. So here is the new pitcher. It's Grant Cunningham for the Washington Huskies. Sophomore out of Seattle Prep. Came in last year, made 21 relief appearances, or primarily relief appearances last season, a couple of starts. 4.56 ERA last season. This year, he has improved on that, but very early. It's his 4th appearance of the year, 3rd in relief. He is 0-2 with a 4.09 ERA. 11 innings, 11 hits, 8 runs, 5 earned, 2 walks, 15 strikeouts. Batters at .256 with the one downside, 5 extra base hits this year against Cunningham. He's going to enter the game for Engman with Timo Becerra coming up. And 1 runner on. Luke Lavin, the DH, is on second with just the 1 out on the sacrifice bunt, which wound up paying off, allowing 2 runs to come in. Cunningham, in his most recent appearance, he got the start against Santa Clara a week ago today. He threw 5 1/3, allowing just 2 earned runs, but 5 runs overall. He struck out 10 in that one, compared to 1 walk, but took the L. Gets the strikeout throw, play on towards second that apparently all sides weren't totally keyed in on. Ivar Kett was not expecting that from Colin Blanchard. Nonetheless, though, he keeps it in front of him, keeps the runner on second base, and Cunningham comes in and quickly strikes out Becerra, who's now 0 for 3. And now it's Ethan Hott, the center fielder. He's been on base twice, scored a run, and stolen a base. And stays away from that one. Inside fastball. And 1 ball count. Foul tip here. Cunningham also made appearances in relief against Long Beach State and Pittsburgh, but at minimum, he has been in the game 2 1/3 this year in each of his 3 appearances. In the Pittsburgh game, he had a tough ending. Washington was playing in Corpus Christi, Texas, a neutral site game, but they were the visiting team technically, and Cunningham allowed a walk-off home run to Pittsburgh's Ryan Zuckerman in the 9th. Was that tipped, or did it hit the batter? No, this foul tip there is called. Two and one, the count. Cunningham, again, Seattle Prep. He was an all-state selection in high school in the state of Washington. It should say 2-2 the count. Drilled down the right field line and just fouled by about a yard, it looked like. Well, the error out there on Oland that, again, would have at least scored one on a sac fly, if not for the drop ball. A ball driven out there by Luke Lavin 2 batters ago. That was a 2-run play for Stanford. Wow. A knee buckling moment, but a ball is called. Ethan Hott completely fooled there, but just a little bit high and inside for Cunningham. Now 3-2. He fooled him again, but missed in about the same spot. Apparently just a bit upstairs, according to Joe Burleson. So now, bottom of the order. This will conclude the third trip through the Stanford order. It's the second baseman, number 9 hitter Ethan Cobb. Flied out in the third to center field, and he was hit by a pitch in the 5th. He was close to getting hit again there. Well, Cunningham centers that one. Cobb is a 5th-year graduate student from Seattle. Went to Seattle Academy. All Pac-12 honorable mention last year, hitting .324 with 36 runs scored, 6 home runs last season. This year, off to just a .234 start. Takes that breaking ball and gets under it. Right to A.J. Guerrero it goes, and he has it. Stanford, though, chases Engman from the game. Scores 2 on the Oland error on the fly ball by Lavin, and it's 3-0. They're taking a look at Matt Scott there, and I have a feeling that Washington is just about sick of looking at Matt Scott at this point. But they've got to keep on dealing with him. His control hasn't been his best outing in the world for that, but 71 pitches, 44 strikes. It's been good enough, and he has elicited all the swings and misses he has needed tonight. He has struck out 9. He's walked only 1, so I mean, you know, in terms of the strike rate, maybe it's the perfect balance. I don't know, keeping them on their heels a little bit. Quickly ahead of Cam Clayton. This is the top of the order, start of the third time through the Washington order, so we'll keep an eye on that as Scott starts his third trip through. Clayton did reach base on a leadoff single to start the night. The next batter up, Arquette, reached on a single. Since then, no base hits allowed. There have been some base runners, but no hits since then for Scott. Guerrero had a fly ball. He reached on an error in the 4th, and Brown was walked to lead off the 5th. He's been a base runner the last 2 innings, but a lot of strikeouts, not a lot of base runners for Scott. 1-2. 2-2. And the combination of a great shortstop glove that has advanced a lot in the last couple years and his bat. I mean, Cam Clayton's been great ever since taking over as the starting shortstop for Washington. Chops this one, charging in is Becerra. Gets a lot behind that throw and sends Clayton back to the dugout. And great job here by Becerra, charging hard, getting this clean, and pumping one in to Nat-I at first, as Scott looks for a quiet inning against the top of the order. Stanford got one in the third on an RBI knock from Court McDonald, their leadoff hitter. And then they brought two more across in the top half of this inning on a fly ball that led to an error in right. So now it's 3-0. Scott's dealing. Looking good if you're Stanford Cardinal. Try and jump ahead in this series with day games both Saturday and Sunday coming up. The projected pitching matchups the next 2 days. The reigning Pac-12 pitcher of the week, Christian Lim, for Stanford against Calvin Kirchhoff tomorrow. That is smacked by Arquette, high and deep, center field, and it's over the fence. Arquette goes the distance, and he gets Washington on the board. On the season, Matt Scott hold that thought as Ibarra steps in. And fouls one off. That's what I was looking for. The fourth home run allowed of the year for Scott. Well, to finish the thought that got interrupted there by the home run, the projected pitching matchups the rest of the series. Lim against Kirchhoff tomorrow is the expected pitching matchup for tomorrow's game. And then Nick Dugan will go for Stanford, in theory, on Sunday against Spencer Dessart for the Huskies. All these things subject to change, but that's what's expected as of now. Okay, so the Huskies have one in. Matt Scott with one down in the inning is up at just over 80 pitches for his outing. Here in the bottom of the sixth. Here comes to Ibarra. This is lashed the opposite way. McDonald moving back several steps. Has got it. 2 outs. Yeah, I mean, solo home run. Great spark there for Washington. Arquette with his second home run of the season. I don't know if the calculus changes too much for Matt Scott right now. Pitch count's fairly under control. Maybe if you're Stanford, you're thinking, okay, he can probably get through 7. if that home run was just a blip on the radar. Guerrero pounds one, deep left field. McDonald on the track, but he is there for the catch. So a loud charge put into it by Guerrero, threatening for the second home run of the inning. But the damage limited to 1, and after 6, it's 3-1 Stanford. Now, coming up later in the series, you have a 2:05 first pitch from Husky Ballpark tomorrow. We talked about the great pitching matchup that is in store for you. The reigning Pac-12 pitcher of the week, Christian Lim for Stanford, against Calvin Kirchhoff, the veteran right-hand arm for the Huskies. And on Sunday, it'll be a 1:05 local time start. This will be the top of the order here for Grant Cunningham, who we certainly expect to be a multiple inning guy for the Huskies. He could, depending on how things go, he could take the Dogs toward the end of the game, given that he's all stretched out and started in his previous appearance and has not gone any less than 2 1/3 in all of his outings this year. This already being the 7th. I don't know if it's likely that Cunningham would finish the game, but it's certainly possible. Of course, that Sunday game being at 1, you also have daylight saving time starting. And we spring forward is what that means, so could feel more like a noon start. In terms of that Sunday game. Yeah, raise your hand if you think daylight saving should always be in effect. I think they got to figure that out at some point. Get that dealt with. Jam shot that gets by the shift. That was the third baseman, DiCarlo, lunging for it and not able to get it. So leadoff batter on base. McDonald reaches for the second time tonight. He already had an RBI single in the third. And we already deal with enough time zone difficulties out here. I'd say that as a former East Coaster now out in the West Coast. We don't need you to just change the daylight savings back and forth on us as well. All right, off the soapbox. Malcolm Moore is 0 for 3 today. He really gotten off to a slower start this season. He's going to have an opportunity, though, against a relief arm in Cunningham. Should drift out of play. So it'll be 1-2. Well, one of the best appearances of Cunningham's career came April 21st of last year. He delivered 5 shutout innings of relief at Stanford. So he's been in this situation, this exact situation before, minus the location, and has really delivered. Different looking Stanford lineup this year. Different looking for both teams. When you factor in the players that left for the pros. Moore was jammed a bit on that one, and easy play it should be for Wilson in center, 2 down. Or, pardon me, 1 down. after McDonald reached third batter of the inning, Jimmy Nadai, who singled and scored his last time up. He's 1 for 3. But to finish the thought there on the draft, or continue with the thought, Stanford had 9 draftees, the most among Pac-12 schools, third most in the country in 2023, behind national champ LSU and Wake Forest, including 12th overall pick Tommy Troy of the Diamondbacks. Albert Rios went in the 3rd round to the LA Angels. Quinn Matthews, the top drafted pitcher for Stanford, went into the 4th round to the Cardinals. Those are a few of the top draft picks. So they have to retool on the fly this year under David Esker. Washington, some impressive draft stats as well, with Kiefer Lord going to the Baltimore Orioles. Man, what a great place to land, too. Baltimore just developing people like crazy the last several years. Lord goes to the O's in the 3rd round. Case Matter, an intriguing arm he didn't always put it together completely at the collegiate level for the Huskies, but had some amazing moments. He, as an indication of his potential, went in the 10th round of the Rangers. Stu Fleslin, Johnny Tincher in the 11th round. Will Simpson went in the 15th round to the Oakland A's. By the time he hopefully reaches the majors, he might be playing in a different city. But Simpson got off to a great start, despite like a lower draft selection. Got off to a great start with Oakland in their organization last year. Kobe Morales went to the Yankees as well for the Huskies. As this one heads right towards us, and I think found its way into the press box. There's a few booths over. Hopefully everyone's okay. One and two to Nadai. Instead, a throw to first to check on McDonald. It's amazing on the draft pick stuff. Like, you have Kiefer Lord, who transferred from Division III Concordia, and a year later he's in the 3rd round getting taken by the Baltimore Orioles. What a job by Jason Kelly developing him, and credit to Kiefer Lord. You believe in yourself and know your worth, and I think he always knew he had it in him, but Division III to the 3rd round. Fly ball out there for Nadai. Of course, Washington for the 2nd straight year dipping into the D3 ranks, and you're going to see Spencer Dessart start Game 3 of this series, who comes from Middlebury College in Vermont. One of the absolute beautiful, picturesque campuses that you could find for anyone that's paid a visit to Middlebury, Vermont. Lord did it last year. We'll see Dessart get a chance against the Stanford Cardinal later on in this series. Meanwhile, Cunningham against Brady Reynolds. Right fielder singled in the 2nd. He walked and scored in the 6th, did ground out in the 4th, but he's been on base twice. One and two. Washington will have Carson Oland, Michael Brown, Sam DiCarlo. 5, 6, 7 coming up. Two-strike pitch to Reynolds. Runner goes. One hop throw. Gets by the shortstop, Clayton. Here's going to be a play at third, though. A one-hop throw to third. Tag not applied by DiCarlo in time on a laser from Wilson. Is this worth challenging? It got by Clayton there, and then a risky play to potentially make the third out at third base, which is a total no-no when you're already in scoring position, by Court McDonald. And I think Washington's going to challenge this. It looked like on that first view that he was out, that McDonald was out at third. And the question is exactly how soon the tag got in there, because clearly the throw beat him by a mile. I was surprised that DiCarlo somehow wouldn't have gotten that tag in time. And it was close. It was close, but I think that was the wrong call by third base umpire Bradley Hungerford. And kind of surprising, too, when the throw beats the runner that badly, you think you might err on the side of out there. He just was blocked off, but that appeared to be out based on the replay. If I'm going to make a guess, or an educated guess of what they're going to rule here, I mean, you, of course, need the conclusive evidence, as anyone that's ever listened to a sports broadcast has heard, but he looked out. DV Sports applying the replay looks, and the second year, the Pac-12 has had the replay capability, and it was a welcome addition last year. Washington had a lot of calls go their way last weekend, and no, I was wrong. Okay. Just forget everything I said for the last 2 minutes. Man, the angles we got, now they have other angles, so that's the key. But the angles we got, it looked like the tag got there about a split second before the slide. Maybe there was another angle, or they just felt it was inconclusive. So the risk pays off. McDonald gets to third. Brady Reynolds, 3-2 count. Two-run game, big pitch here from Cunningham. He got him. He fooled Reynolds with the breaking ball, and that will do it for the top half of the seventh. Time to stretch in Seattle. All that challenge business doesn't end up mattering. It's 3-1 Stanford. Stanford's going to stick with Matt Scott. There was a longer wait with the challenge factoring in the previous half inning, but Scott's going to take the ball to the bottom of the seventh, and he's at 85 pitches. We're still pretty early in the season, cold weather. I don't know that it would be shocking if this was Scott's last inning, but I don't also know the ins and outs of how far he is stretched out, how comfortable they feel, David Esker's philosophy, their bullpen plan, all of that. We don't have all of that, so we'll see, but probably getting toward the end for Matt Scott. Going to face 5, 6, 7. Carson Oland in right field. He has struggled. 2 strikeouts swinging against Scott. Scott overall has 9 strikeouts, though he hasn't gotten one since the first out of the 5th inning. It just looks really effortless the more you look at it from Scott. He's got the height. He stands very upright. You see when he releases the ball, his push-off leg almost looks like it's barely bent. He throws really over the top. And I'm sure is using a lot of force from the legs, but it just looks really effortless on the release. And kind of using the leverage and the 6'7" height that he has at his disposal. Given his release point, I wonder if it almost feels like he's taller than 6'7". It probably plays into how difficult it is for hitters to deal with. You don't get a lot of those release points from where, just take a look at it, where he releases from, how over the top he comes, as you see a 3-2. Think about another guy like a Randy Johnson who had the intimidation factor with all the height, but he wasn't really releasing the ball over the top like that. Normally, kind of the 3/4 or sidearm release is considered probably more difficult, but in Scott's case, I feel like this could be unique for hitters to deal with. 3-2 to Oland. He lost him. Second free pass from Scott. Kind of makes you perk up a little bit. And again, pitch count, starting to think about that with 85 coming into the inning. Now that was a 7-pitch at bat that ends in a walk. He's walked 2 in the last 3 innings and allowed a home run in the previous inning after he was flawless in the early going. Overall, though, he's been great the whole way. Michael Brown now could tie the game with one swing, and he is certainly capable. Brown does have a home run this season. That'll count as one disengagement there of the 2 you get per batter. Oland has not attempted a stolen base this year. Brown has 6 career homers. 4 came during his freshman season when he was second on the team in that category. Problem is he struck out 74 times in 203 career at-bats coming in. So again, it's the consistency that he has the big power potential. See him going, no batting gloves here. One, two. Chopper toward first. Nadi hits the shortstop Haskins. Throw back to the pitcher Scott for the double play. Three, 6-1. And the second ground into double play of the night for the Huskies. That was a massive, massive double play inducement there by Scott. Helps the pitch count situation, takes the tying run situation off the plate for now. And now it's Sam DiCarlo, who's got a lot of ability, but is 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. And right now, the scoreboard, something happened out on the scoreboard out in left field that they, as soon as I mentioned it, they fixed it. There was a little glitch and you couldn't see the count. You couldn't see some of the hitters, and they figured it out. spoken into existence. 2 balls and no strikes. Yeah, if Scott can get DeCarlo quickly, it could bring the 8th inning back into play, depending on how they want to play it. Right back over his head. This is going to be a difficult play. Cobb charges and gets DeCarlo by half a step or less. So with a double play helping in a big way, let's take a look at just how close this was. A nice play here from Owen Cobb. That was close, but it was out. And after 7, Stanford holds the 2-run lead. We welcome you to the 8th. And we welcome you back to Husky Ballpark here in Seattle, which has gone from comfortable to cool over the course of the last couple hours. We've had some colder than average temperatures here in recent days and weeks, fair to say. Just poked down the line by Trevor Haskins and drifting foul. But I've had a couple of days where the sunlight has peeked through a little more than you might come to expect as well. I don't know that anybody really complained about maybe 49 and sunny. We'll take a few more of those. Haskins had a fly out in the second, was hit by a pitch, wound up stealing second in the 4th. Didn't advance any further. And had a key sacrifice bunt Haskins did in the 6th that led to an error on the next plate appearance and 2 runs coming in to score. But this time Haskins strikes out looking. Cunningham with his 3rd strikeout. Now, Luke Lavin, who had the difference-making at-bat, we'll say, in the last time he was up in the 6th. He reached on an error, but it was the difference-making strike. He sent one out down the right field line. Difficult play. Olin dropped it. It would have been a sac fly anyway. And 2 came in as a result of the error. You know what I should say? Speaking of that, I'm going to correct myself there. Because of the fact that it would have been a sac fly anyway, it actually was ruled a sac fly. And I apologize there. I mean, plus the error adds the 2nd run. So he still gets the RBI. He doesn't have it taken off his average. He gets a sacrifice fly out of it. Plus an E9 added on for the 2nd run coming in. So whatever way you slice it, that's the correct ruling. But Lavin, that was a huge moment for him to drive that ball down the right field line. It plated 2, and that's the difference in a 3-1 game. The crowd and the Husky dugout didn't like that call. This is just foul. Defense in a shifted alignment, so there was no one home for that ground ball. Had that stayed fair, that would have been 2 bases for Lavin, even with it being softly hit. Instead, the count 3-2 with 1 out here in the top of the 8th. 2:05 start time tomorrow between these 2 teams. Got game 1 of the series here. Stanford has carried the lead since they took a 1-0 advantage in the 3rd. Stanford picked 2nd in the Pac-12 preseason poll behind loaded Oregon State. Received 2 first-place votes. Washington, which badly overachieved last year. They were picked 8th, wound up finishing 3rd in the regular season. What do they get as a reward? No, they'll give you 1 spot in the preseason coaches poll. Now picked 7th this year. Here comes another 3-2. Blew it by him. Cunningham sits Lavin down. Back-to-back strikeouts, and the 4th of the night now for Cunningham. The Huskies are going to have at least one more chance with the heart of their order. They have 8-9-1 due up in the bottom of the 8th. With 2 outs here in the top half of the inning. Timo Becerra 0 for 3 with a strikeout. He was the first batter that Cunningham faced and struck out in that at bat. Becerra, the third baseman. Swings through one. From Clovis, California. Becerra with a role increase this year, starting every single game. Last year had just 11 starts. He has now surpassed that this year. But he strikes out. Cunningham strikes out the side. So now each team has had a pitcher do that. Matt Scott struck out the side in the 2nd. Cunningham does it in the 8th, his 5th strikeout. And the new pitcher for Stanford is Cassius Thomas, transfer from Duke in his first year with the program. 6'2", 290 sophomore out of Los Angeles and Sierra Canyon. Thomas is going to make his 7th appearance. He's typically been a 1-inning guy or slightly more. 6 previous appearances, he's thrown 9 innings, given up 9 hits, 6 runs all earned, 6 walks, 8 strikeouts, 2 home runs. Thomas will face 8-9-1. Colin Blanchard is the scheduled hitter, but we have a pinch hitter. Colton Bauer, who also plays catcher. And what is that, the Home Depot theme song as his walk-up music? I think that's Home Depot. Or is it Lowe's? I forget which home goods or hardware outlet. Either way, I gave both a shout out, and of all the walk-up songs I've ever heard, that is a first. But I get it. I understand the messaging. So it's Bauer, the catcher, coming in to replace Blanchard, who went 0 for 2, 2 strikeouts. And quickly, Bauer's behind 0-2, and that's a 3-pitch strikeout. It's now the 10th strikeout for Stanford pitching. And Blake Wilson, who's also 0 for 2, is the 9-man, will come up in his scheduled spot here to face Cassius Thomas. Now, Thomas, if you heard me say Sierra Canyon, and that sounds familiar. That's Bronny's high school. We know from covering Bronny at USC this year on the basketball team. Again, Thomas in his first year here after 1 year for Duke. Smoked right there by Wilson, but foul. Chopper up the middle. Owen Cobb ranging over. He sits down Wilson, and 2 quick outs for Thomas. I am going to go to YouTube during the break and figure out and make sure that was Home Depot and not Lowe's. I think it was Home Depot. Thomas last year, he made 6 appearances for the Blue Devils with 1 start, 5 1/3 innings, 11 strikeouts, 222 opponent batting average. That was Cam Clayton that you're seeing step in. Clayton 1 for 3 with a single that came back in the first. Just missed the zone there. Thomas, the former number 5 ranked prospect in California, number 2 rated right-handed pitcher in the class of 2022. Hit right into the gap there. They had Clayton shifted over with the entire infield, even with the second base bag or further left, and Clayton took advantage. That's what you do against the shift. Proving every dad correct who you have heard say over the years. Come on. You just got to go the opposite way. What's all this about canceling the shift? Got to be a hitter up there. Iva Arquette had a home run in the 6th to break the seal. He's 2 for 3. And the only multi-hit guy today for the Huskies that have only had 4 hits as a unit. The only multi-hit guy until Clayton just got his second. So all 4 hits have come from the first 2 batters. That's another type of hit. We've now seen 3 total batters get hit today. Engman plunked a couple. And that's just right in the back. That's where you want it if you're going to get hit by a pitch. That's how you're taught to do. Turn around and just absorb that right in the back. A lot of the times you don't have the luxury of being able to react. But now all of a sudden, tying run will be on base, and go-ahead run represented by Jeter Ibarra. One swing could change the complexion of this game. And because of that, we have a mound visit from Thomas Eager. Cassius Thomas hoping to not spoil the decision here for Matt Scott. Joe Burleson has seen enough of this conversation. Wants them to hurry this thing up. Well, Ibarra is the number 3 hitter in the lineup. He has 1 home run this year. Home run here would change the balance of this game, would put Washington in front. Ibarra had just one home run last year as a freshman. But a nice overall season, hitting .290. I should say Ibarra in this redshirt junior because he transferred from JUCO in Olone College. But this is his second year with the club. Two balls, no strikes. Two down. In there, according to Joe Burleson. Right back up the middle, base hit. Cam Clayton makes the turn for home. Throw gets all the way toward the plate. Runners still hold up. But an RBI single by Ibarra cuts the deficit in half. It's 3-2. And Stanford will make another change. Cassius Thomas could not get out of the eighth in his first inning of work, replacing Matt Scott. And we'll take the break here as Stanford executes a pitching change. And the new pitcher is Torin O'Haron. Right-hander, sophomore, 6'1", 198 out of Rockland, California. We'll get you the numbers on him coming in. This is his sixth appearance. Doesn't have a decision this year. 1.23 ERA. 7 1/3 innings. 3 hits, 1 run, 1 earned, 6 walks, 11 strikeouts. Just 1 extra base hit, a double. He allowed only a single double last year, but 4 home runs. But O'Haron is the closer for Stanford. He has 2 saves already on this young season. He's going to be tasked with the final 4 outs here in this Pac-12 opening game for both of these teams. A.J. Guerrero, cleanup hitter, is in at the plate for Washington. Double play ground out to end the first. Reached on an error in the fourth. He also ended the sixth with a fly ball out. So he has had 2 inning-ending at-bats. He's hoping to avoid a third. With 2 outs, the tying run at second in the form of Iva Arquette, and the go-ahead run at first, Jeter Ibarra. So an extra base hit could take the lead here for the Huskies. A single would likely tie the game. 1-1. The pitch is well off the plate. Count 2 balls and a strike. RBI single by Ibarra, plated Clayton. And the Huskies look to continue their 2-out rally. The first 2 batters were retired. The next 3 have reached base. And it's a 3-1 count to Guerrero. O'Haron's pitch. Full count. Guerrero, another one of those players, kind of like we were talking about with Moore on the other side. Serious track record, slow start to this season. Looking for his first home run of the year. And a full count offering coming. Runners go deep to right field, twisting out of the yard and foul. Biggest at bat of the game for Washington. And it's exactly the guy they want. Guerrero, all Pac-12, honorable mention last year. Third year with the program. True junior. Takes ball 4. Everyone moves up a base, and the bases are loaded for Carson Oland. What a moment here for Oland, facing reigning Pac-12 regular season champ, College World Series participant 3 times over in the last few years in Stanford. Out of Maple Valley, Washington, Oland takes a huge hack at that one. Number 1 catcher in the state of Washington, rated by Perfect Game, coming out of this most recent high school class. 1-1. That was nowhere near challenging him. Got a brother, Austin, who played baseball at Central Washington. Now, Carson here at UW facing the 1-1. He didn't go there, and that was outside. 2-1. Some real game pressure on the Stanford closer, Torin O'Haron here. Again, Washington has won the last 4 series between these two teams at home. Looking for a comeback win tonight. They were down 3-0. Big cut and a miss and a huge favor from Oland. That would have been 3-1 if he just let that one fly. He struck out twice, but then walked in his most recent plate appearance in the 7th. Here's the 2-2, right down Broadway. Oland strikes out looking. And Torin O'Haron preserves the Stanford lead going to the 9th. Well, we enter the 9th inning. Washington falling just short in the bottom of the 8th. Had a couple of plate appearances with the tying and go-ahead runners on base, but were unable to drive them in after Guerrero walked. Oland struck out for the 3rd time. And a theme this year continues for Washington, runners left on base. Hasn't been as bad tonight. They haven't had as many runners on base tonight. But now 98 left on base for this team in the young season, only playing their 10th game. And double-digit left on base 6 times so far tonight. After leaving 2 on base last half inning, Washington with 5 LOBs tonight. Well, Grant Cunningham's come on, done a great job of preserving the bullpen for the rest of the series. He checked in for Engman in the 6th inning and is now in the 9th. Defensive replacement you see there. Colton Bauer stays in the game for Washington, replacing Colin Blanchard as a pinch hitter. And staying in for Blanchard at catcher. Confirmed Home Depot theme song there. 100% confirmed. Cannot wait to ask why. But, again, I kind of understand it. Blue collar, catcher. Doers get more done or whatever they say. Cunningham's been getting it done, and he nearly found himself in position for perhaps a victory if Washington could get that one more key hit in the bottom of the 8th. Well, the books have long since been closed on the starters now. So Engman's final line, 5 1/3, 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, 80 pitches, 55 strikes for Engman. Pretty good from him. And continues what's been some great performances by Washington's starting pitchers. That has not been the issue for the Washington Huskies this season. Meanwhile, for Stanford, Matt Scott had a sparkling performance as Ethan Hott drops this perfectly down the third base line. Infield single, his second infield single, and he has been on base all 4 times with 2 singles, a double, and a walk. Final line on Scott. 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 run. It was earned. 2 walks, 9 strikeouts. 99 pitches, 60 strikes for Scott. Cassius Thomas came in, struggled, got 2 outs, but left a couple on in the 8th inning. Torn O'Haron came in, walked Guerrero, but then got Olin looking. Bunt popped right up. And that's grabbed by Cunningham. Talked about some of those issues from Stanford with the bunting. And they got a key one down. Haskins did. And the next batter, Lavin, led to a sacrifice fly and an error when 2 runs came in. But they've had a lot of other issues getting bunts down tonight. That was Owen Cobb there with the pop out. Now another batter showing bunt, and they get the desired result anyway. Pitch by Cunningham was up and out, and Bauer couldn't glove it. Court McDonald, leadoff hitter, showing bunt, and now has a chance to hit with a runner in scoring position. Already has 2 hits tonight. Now, with Jared Engman's outing tonight, it has now been 7 different times in 10 games that a Washington Husky starter has gone at least 5 innings and allowed 2 or fewer earned runs. However, starter has gotten the no decision 5 times in those instances, and right now Engman would be in line for the defeat, so they have not been rewarded by those strong starts. McDonald chases, tips it, and Bauer squeezes. Cunningham, who struck out the side in the 8th, now has his 6th K. And they're going to intentionally walk Malcolm Moore. Moore 0 for 4. Will gladly, I think he'll gladly take it there. Just a chance to get on base. Again, you know, a much better hitter than his early season numbers would indicate. So much so that Washington would prefer to face Jimmy Nadai, who hit one hard in the first inning and also singled and scored a run in the 6th. So he's 1 for 4 with a couple of hard hit balls. 2 outs in the inning. So, I mean, it also does give you the force at second base, but I think really Huskies just saw something there with the numbers on more. They'd prefer to face Nadai. Nadai lines it to left, and Guerrero turns himself into position for the catch. Jason Kelly making the right decision, as it turned out, and Washington in a one-run game to the bottom of the ninth, a chance to try and tie it or walk it off. Last ups for the Huskies. It's been a close game and a pitcher's duel tonight. And we'll see what Washington can do. Due up 6, 7, 8. Michael Brown, Sam DiCarlo, Colton Bauer. Michael Brown had a key double play ground out in the 7th. He did walk to reach base in the 5th. He struck out in the 2nd, so he's 0 for 2 with a walk. We have already talked about Brown's power, and he will be looking to tie this game, no doubt here. If he were to reach base, he probably would be pinch run for, you'd think. Stanford closer Torrin O'Haron came in for the final out of the 8th, looking for his 3rd save of the season. Loop to left field, hat comes off, ball goes into the glove for Court McDonald. If Stanford succumbs to Washington late and gives away here in the 9th, they might regret the 8 they've left on base. Sam DiCarlo sends it to right. It hits Reynolds on the hop, sprays back toward the infield, and that is a fortuitous bounce for Stanford. I mean, you talk about selling out in a one-run game on type of play. If that goes just a little bit more wrong for Reynolds, DiCarlo's running for a long time. That was not the right play there by Reynolds. Definitely better off just accepting the single, but he gets away with it. Takes a fortunate bounce for Stanford off of the dive there, off of Reynolds. DiCarlo has to stick to one anyway. I mean, look, you love aggressiveness, but you got to imagine David Esker will be having a conversation about that particular play after the game with his freshman right fielder. Pinch hitter here for Washington. Karsten Pearson, freshman outfielder. He is stepping in for Colton Bauer, so we don't get to hear the Home Depot jingle again. DiCarlo, the tying run on first, and a hitter's count, 2-1. Karsten Pearson out of Dublin, California. Dublin High School. Pop-up. Down the line and left. McDonald has it. DiCarlo thought about trying to tag there, and at least made the throw come in from McDonald challenging him. And only the ninth at-bat of the year there for Pearson. He is still hitless. So now the hopes ride on Blake Wilson. You're thinking about DiCarlo. He is 2 for 2 this year in attempted steals. First pitch swinging. Wilson bloops it to shallow center field. Running play from Ethan Hott. to end the ball game. And in 2 hours and 54 minutes, Stanford gets it done against the Washington Huskies. Stanford wins 3-2. Matt Scott throws 7 strong, strikes out 9, and is the winning pitcher. Despite the great Jared Engman performance, he gets the losing decision tonight for Washington, and Torrin O'Haron collects the 4-out save. We have on the Washington live stream for you the 2:05 start tomorrow and the 1:05 start with daylight savings as well on Sunday. Looking forward to that. Great crew here. Great job tonight. A.J. Cannell saying so long from Husky Ballpark here in Seattle. Stanford survives Washington in the Pac-12 opener, 3-2.